When I was in my addiction, I would run up a cell phone bill and, just go get a new one when I didn't want to pay the bill. I had overdrawn bank accounts. To me, credit didn't matter. And then when I got home and I'm serving and I'm doing these things, I eventually knew that I wanted to buy a house. And so I began looking at my credit report. And thankfully, a lot of the stuff had fallen off because it had been so long. But there were a few things that I needed to take care of. And so I downloaded the Credit Karma app and, signed up for that, was able to see the things that were on my credit report. For instance, I had a $25 hospital bill that all I needed to pay was the $25. There was a couple of other things that had went to collections that I was able to negotiate a payment on. And so that took care of that. And then it also gave me some suggestions for kind of like a secured credit card. And so it was a credit card with not a high limit. I think it was maybe $200. And I paid $70 deposit to get the credit card. And so I started to use that to, pay a little bit of something on here and then, to be able to pay it off the next month. And before I knew it, my credit score just kept climbing. And, I was offered a department store card for the first time ever. And I remember them running my credit for it. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting that, but sure, for the 10% off, I'll take it, And then I got approved for it. And so that was really important to me too. And I, instead of going on a shopping spree, I would just buy something that I knew that, I could afford to pay off the next payment. That started, it started the growth. And within a couple of years, it had went up a couple of 100 points. And from the time that I started that till now, we bought a house last year. And so, my name is on the mortgage. So that meant a lot to me. I worked really hard to get to that point.
When you trash your credit, it takes a long time to fix. So that's been something that I've done since I'm out from secured loans through the bank, because that helps build your credit back, to small little loans here, building your credit back. But as you're building your credit back, you also have to be careful, because like I was offered JCPenney's and cards like that, and if you wasn't good at finances to start with, then you're just gonna go spend a lot, and then you're just right back where you started from. But the only thing that is gonna fix your credit is time. You eventually paying on some of the things that were on there, getting new things on there that are showing good credit, and that's about the only thing that is going to raise your credit.
What I did to help rebuild my credit when I got out was first accessing my credit score, which there are a lot of free services out there. Credit Karma is mainly the major one used today, but you are able to see what's on your credit. And then you can see if something that is not yours, you can dispute that by writing the creditor. And most of them won't respond in the time period that it takes, so that is just taken off of your credit. So that's one of the easiest ways to get something off of your credit. The next is, depending on the length of time you served, most of it fell off before you even got out. So I found that to be very good, that I actually came out with a higher score than when I went in.
When I came home, my credit was shot. I had student loans that were all in default. They had taken my tax return for the last 7 years because of that. And I didn't care because I was in addiction anyway. I could have used the money, but it probably wouldn't have been for good use. So I actually hired a law firm, like a credit repair place, and had them work on my credit, called and started setting up payments to get my loans out of default, to get that cleared up. And that helped me so much because it raised my credit score, probably 150 points. And I was able to buy a brand new car for the first time in my entire life, which I've never been able to do. They gave me credit cards, which, I never thought would be able to happen after my previous history. Having an improved credit score and knowing the importance of that, your interest rates, I never understood about interest rates, how your credit score could affect your interest rates. And that was huge because cars before, I was paying like 20-something% interest, and you never pay it off by the time it's a junker, So to be able to have something that's nice and new and has a warranty and have a decent interest rate was a huge first for me, and only God, and I learned a lot of those tools while I was there and locked up.
Well, today I have a line of credit, which my credit was horrible. In my past, I was able to just go and apply for credit cards, and I would just use them and I'd pay them back. I would do whatever it took to get money, And today I was able to pay some of my bills from my past. I was able to open a bank account. About 2 months ago, they gave me a line of credit. And I thought, thank you, Jesus, I'm back. If somebody could trust me, the bank could trust me, So it feels good. It feels good because in the past, I wasn't able to do any of that.
When I first got home, I was looking for a bank because my credit is important. I'm 47 years old and I've never bought a home. That's not so much to ask, to own a home. It doesn't have to be, a castle. And so I was like, okay, I have to start working towards that if I want it. So I asked a few people around about a bank account. Well, they all gave me the name of a bank that gave them money for opening my account there. That kind of thing. And what I didn't realize is that was not in my best interest. Even though I went to that bank and I said, here's what I'm trying to do, will you help me? They said, sure. Well, 6 months later, when I was ready for them to help me, they didn't. And I went back to them and talked to them about it. And I said, well, I'm not going to bank here. It wasn't a great loss for them, I'm sure. And I still have my account because I don't want to close it. I don't know why, but I just don't. So I went to the credit union because I know that the way that they operate is better. I don't have to pay a monthly, I have to leave $25 in the bank, but you need to leave more than that in the bank anyway. And I knew that by talking to them, when I told them about my experience at the other bank, I was just very honest. I said, I've been incarcerated. I don't have this, I don't have that. And I've had a bad experience with the bank. And so I want to know that you're going to help me reach my financial goals. And I just talked to them for a long time before I opened my account and asked a lot of questions. There's things I didn't understand. Technology changes a whole lot in 5.5 years. And so they explained all those things to me, and they were helpful, and they were not in a hurry. And I was like, oh, okay, I feel at home here. And so that's, the place I decided to stay, and I'm very happy with them.
Before I went in, I was not in good standing with banks because I owed them money because of, losing my job and not being able to pay, whatever was in there because, it wasn't like what happened to me, it just happened all of a sudden. So I wasn't prepared for what happened. I didn't have any savings. And then I didn't work for like about 6 months. I thought it was bad credit with the banks. But the bank that I did initially have before my credit union, they were charging me all kinds of stuff because they started charging me $25 for having a savings account, and they started charging me $9 for a checking account, and I didn't make very much money. And you have to make at least, at the bank that I had, you had to make at least $700 in order to have direct deposit. So they were just trying, they had all these different gimmicks on how to charge me money. And I would call them monthly and say, I met your criteria, why are you still charging me? And then they would come up with another criteria that I had to meet. And so I said, no more. I'm just gonna close my account with you. They try to sell it to me again because that's what they are told. Because I did have a niece that worked for the bank, and she said, well, one of the things that they push us to do is to sell product. So that's why they try to stop you from closing your account. And with the credit union, my understanding is that you are invested into the credit union because they want to help you with different things, such as purchasing a car, getting loans, purchasing a house. So those are things that the credit union has played a big role with helping me find a vehicle. and they helped my friend with loans so that she could purchase a house.
With my crime being in banking, and that's what my degree was in, I knew that that could be a stumbling block for me. So just like somebody have an alcohol problem, so they need to steer clear of alcohol, it's the same with that money problem. So it's, again, having that accountability. So when I got out, I did not have an account just with my name on it. My oldest daughter was on my account. It's just that accountability. And we need that in our lives, because if we don't, we'll tend to slip back to our old habits to solve problems. So that accountability was huge for me, but it also learned me to know some better practices that I hadn't practiced before. So having that someone to bounce off, that if I write this, this person's gonna see this, so do I really need this? That was very helpful for me.
I do a lot of invoicing and stuff for my company, and I have a company credit card. And I don't know, I never thought at any point would I ever be trusted so much. Not that they wouldn't, but sometimes people tend to not trust people just because of your background, even though none of my background was financially related as far as my crime. But there is hope. Like, at some point they do trust you, and I remember they started giving me their credit card, and then at some point I got my own, and they just keep raising the limit because I do all the recruiting, so I have to post things on Indeed, and it's just nice to be trusted. I take very good care, and the receipts and making sure I submit everything. There's a lot of people in our company who they have to continually ask them to do their credit card receipts and stuff, and I just feel really honored to have that privilege, and I think it's important to follow the rules that are set and do it in a timely manner. That that's part of your job. That's what you're paid to do. So that's very important to me, and I think it's kind of cool that they trust me, and that I've come so far.